Hey everyone, and welcome to PS 151. I'm your instructor, James Marcuzzo. I'll manage the class. So what is PS 151? It's a basic political science class. It's an introduction to American institutions and government. The class will primarily consist of you taking automated quizzes based on the text. You'll have a short video to watch each week in which you will write a short answer connecting the material to the substance of the video. In weeks 5 or 6, and then at the end of class, you'll have both a midterm and a final, which will consist of a series of short essay questions that you'll be able to choose from, covering material from each chapter of the first half of the class and of the second half. Okay, so that's a brief walkthrough of what to expect. We start off with, what is politics? What is government? Well, politics is the management of a society. It's the compromise and the negotiation of who gets what and how we allocate resources. Governments can be described in several ways. One of my favorite examples from my time in my master's studies was governments are basically organized crime that just have a monopoly on violence. That's a government. A bit of a cynical view, but I don't think inaccurate. Governments, nonetheless, are change management systems dealing with allocation of resources, the apportionment of rights and responsibilities, and the management of society. So politics and government obviously go hand in hand. In chapter 2, we start with a brief overview of American history at the founding and leading into the development of the nation state that we currently live in. What was the relationship between the colonists and the British Empire? What were the things that took place that caused the separation? What were the specific things that the British Crown did that upset the people living here who considered themselves British subjects? There was a war that took place, and then after that war, what happened to create the country and the documents that we now have to govern our society? At first, it was not the Constitution, it was the Articles of Confederation. You'll read about that. It didn't work very well, which is why they later developed the Constitution. Subsequent chapters, you'll talk about federalism, right? We have the several states and we have the national government. What is the relationship between those different entities? We'll talk about that, those chapters. We'll talk about the media and the role the media plays in American government. We'll talk about rights, civil liberties. What's the difference between negative rights and positive rights? The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, are good examples of negative rights. Things the government can't do to you, can't take away from you. Limitations on the government. Positive rights that come later are things the government must do for you. Scholars, different political philosophers have different approaches to these concepts, but they both exist right within our body of rights in the United States. This is a brief overview to the type of things we'll be discussing. On occasion, I may offer some relevant news, issues of the day that might tie into the course. And so I'll leave you with this because something big just happened. For all of you younger students who spend time online, you're probably familiar with the name Charlie Kirk. He was a political organizer, political activist, I suppose you can call him, a Republican, certainly conservative. He was, I think, evangelical conservative. And he was in charge of Turning Point USA, if I remember correctly. Is a very large, very powerful political action committee comprised of younger people. He went around to colleges and universities and he talked with people. He was a strong conservative Christian with strong social conservative perspectives. And he had some, I don't know if I'd say extreme views. He had very conservative views. He had people that loved him and people that hated him. He was just assassinated. I think this is a big deal. So if you're young and you're familiar, you might know him and hate him, or you might know him and like him, or maybe you fall somewhere in between. The stuff we talk about in this class is ultimately going to relate to the assassination and the downstream consequences of that assassination, I'll give you a quick thing to consider. He was a very good organizer. He was a very persuasive speaker. He was a very bright guy. Even if you don't like him, it's hard to deny those things. He was very close to people in power. Right? He was instrumental in the re-election of Donald Trump in 2024. They are mad that he is dead. Not the least of which because he was a tool for their power. These people were close to him. They were friends. And so there's an element of vengeance that is motivating some of the people in power right now as they, unfortunately, I think, seek to potentially capitalize in somewhat dishonest ways or manipulative ways on his death. Pay attention to free speech. Pay attention to hate speech laws. Crazy stuff's about to happen. I hope I'm wrong, though. How does this relate to the early material? It doesn't exactly, but you'll see as we continue on through the course and through the material in the book, we'll paint a bigger picture. And so you'll understand how, for example, the role of the executive, the role of the legislature, and the role of judiciary play a role. How power is apportioned to the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, and what steps our current administration is taking to consolidate power in one way or another, and what the role of the different branches of government are in either supporting or resisting those pushes by one of the branches of government. And then what role the media plays in all this, because Charlie Kirk was profoundly good, skillful at using the media, social media, to get his message out and to draw in more support. So we'll talk again soon.